Well, I give a considerable amount of credit to GSD&M because we selected them. We were looking for creativity, not bureaucracy, and they were a bunch of really creative kids, I'll tell you. And I think our relationship with them, Gary, probably is longer than any in the history of the advertising agency because they have always produced for us, and they've always understood the essence of Southwest Airlines, in my opinion. And, of course, Gary worked with them on the Bags Fly Free campaign and its progeny, and I think that's a magnificent campaign.
Well, and I do too. I think they've done a tremendous job with that, but they have always proven to us, and Colleen's worked with them as long as Southwest has been working with GSD&M as well. They've always been, you all must understand what a tough business that is, what a tough assignment that is to constantly be creative, be fresh, be compelling. And it's been a difficult decade for us in many ways because we've had to respond not just to energy prices, but new competition. JetBlue just started in 2000. So for the first time, maybe not literally for the first time, but more or less for the first time, we were seeing more direct competition in a low-cost, low-fare environment. So we really needed to change what we were doing, and perhaps even to their point, we needed to change our messaging. And they were always willing, at least in my opinion, to take criticism, to make the adjustments that they needed to make to serve their client. And we've certainly pushed them very hard this decade as we were trying to figure out who are we and what do we want to do in a different environment. They were a huge proponent of Bags Fly Free. We're working with them now to try to extend that positioning. And just one other thing to touch on the culture, I'll tie this into your GSD&M point. Culture is a funny thing. It can't really be defined. You can sort of describe attributes about it, but I think the essence of, at least the heart, was what you were hearing from certainly from Herb and Colleen. But if you thought about a company or a team or a family or whatever, if you're not good at what you do, you can't have a culture. And so at Southwest Airlines, and Herb made this point 20 years ago, and it's always stuck with me. I say it and I take credit for it, but really, since you're here, I have to give you credit for this point. But Southwest is one of these rare companies that's really good at most everything that it tries to do. We're famous around the world as an airline operator, but we're also very well known for customer service. And despite the fact that we are an airline and therefore should not have a strong balance sheet, shouldn't make money, we've actually been handsomely profitable for most of our corporate lifetime. So the culture wouldn't be the same if we had lousy service, if we had a poor operation, and if we were bankrupt every 5 years like several of our competitors. But having the desire to have a culture on top of being good at all those things, I think, is what makes it so powerful. So in working with GSD&M, trying to figure out how do we want to position Southwest Airlines, which one do you pick? Do you pick the fact that we're the most on-time airline? Do you pick the one that we've got the best people? Do you pick the point that we're the lowest fare, that we don't charge for bags? We have such a rich encyclopedia of attributes to sell, and that's a wonderful challenge to have. But I think that GSD&M has been helpful to us. In fairness, it was the company who said, we've got to get our message out, guys, because people are confusing us with all the other airlines. We're talking to customers who just show up assuming that we're going to charge them a bag fee as well. So we can't have it both ways. We're either going to be out there charging bag fees like everybody else, or we're going to make sure that everybody in America 8 times over knows that we don't charge for bags. But I think GSD&M is a huge part of our culture, and our success. And I think it is 26 years.
It is.
26
With
years.
GSD&M, and I agree with Herb. I think that's unprecedented. We love them, and they love us, and I think they do a great job for us.
And one of the things we did with them, by the way, from the very beginning, at Colleen's behest, really, was to keep them informed about everything that transpired at Southwest Airlines. They said they'd never had a client like that before that sent them so much information every month on what we were doing, why we were doing it, how we were doing. But I'll tell you what, Roy Spence and I had one difficult time because we opened St. Louis and Chicago on the same day. And at the business luncheon in St. Louis, Roy got up and introduced me. And basically what he said was, Herb Kelleher would have been Forbes Man of the Year, except that he's incompetent. So that evening in Chicago, they held a cocktail party trying to attract clients. And Roy called on me for a few words, which was his big mistake. And I told all his prospective clients that we were deeply indebted to GSD&M because we had been a much larger airline and losing our family feeling before we hired them as our advertising agency. And since they had been handling our advertising, we had gotten a lot smaller and recaptured the family feeling.